progressive education where everyone possesses all the skills and characters to succeed in a diverse and evolving global society. Roll call.
Here. Here.
Here.
Here. Dr. Tennant.
Here.
Ms. Ricks. Here. Ms. Glassman. Here. Mr. Rogers.
Here.
Thank you.
Flag salute. Good evening. We're going to have interviews for the open vacant position on our school board. And we're going to have the two candidates actually answer questions in front of the board, and we will go inside and deliberate on the big decision. That decision won't be finalized when we walk out from the executive session, but we're going to interview them. We want the participation from people in the audience to listen, but they cannot ask any questions and cannot make references or any comments to our interview with the candidates. We have two great candidates. Linda Roma and Alex Mazinka. And we would like to have one of, well, Alex Mazinka go outside while we ask the questions and have Ms. Roma come up and listen to her answers to some of the questions. We will be listing some of the questions that we've used in previous, but I feel as a lot of comments come through the district that a lot of residents and parents in this district would like to know further in-depth questions. So we're going to have some questions that are going to be a little bit more inclusive on an understanding of what we're looking for or what that person will represent as looking to be a member of this board. So,
Mr. Roberts, I have a question about some of these questions that you said. That normally, as in the past, every time we interview candidates, the board work together to have a list of questions. And the last few candidates we did interview, we used the school board's list of questions. I saw the email you sent, questions you had, and some of them were a little prejudicial and misleading. And we all didn't have an opportunity to discuss whether the board as a whole, because they're the ones that are interviewing, and it's the board's process, wants to ask these questions of the candidates. So I'd like to know who came up with these questions, and we can talk about it. Please explain.
Right now, the president and the vice president have a discussion about the process. And yes, we've had some normal, general, and I believe very general questions that have come out of previous board interviews. And believing this is such an intense time in Asbury Park with some of the issues that have been going on, I believe any new board member coming on should be vested in some of these issues that have been addressed on social media, in the news, and all over. I think when you look at, as we go through a lot of debates and issues that go on, a lot of the texture of what a lot of the problems of our district are, they are basically not answered. We have questions always being preferred and misleading answers. And I think one of the things is, if anybody's looking to come on this board, I think some of the same questions that we are asked every day, which we're not on this list.
But Mr. Rogers, you keep saying saying I. This is
I believe.
You
Like I
believe.
said, I believe.
We haven't discussed these questions. Actually, there's no process here because you and Ms. Glassman discussed these questions. The board has not been involved. This is not,
No, I think,
Tracy Rogers interviewing
no.
candidates. It's the
I
board's interviewing
forwarded
candidates.
you those questions. I gave you opportunity to look at those.
Yeah, and I
questions.
sent you New Jersey School Board's questions, and that's what we usually
Yeah,
do.
the University School Board doesn't answer about
But it's-
the tax increases that we did every day.
Well, I
They
understand
don't,
that.
they don't, they don't, they don't
It's-
talk about that. And those are issues that right now, this community wants to know. And I think they want to know how people feel about these situations that are happening today. School board, in no disrespect to the school boards, most of their things are general and not actually directed towards what the situations that are going on in this community.
And we should have had a discussion last month when we had a meeting, given enough time to develop questions, interact with the board members, make a suggestion. Because a lot of these questions, some of these questions you have are prejudicial.
And how presidential?
Well, you asked a question about-
Very often the question that seems president.
We asked a leading question about what you felt was the most important as a top priority. Maybe that candidate didn't think it was a top priority. And
Well, I think that's one of the questions that is one of
there's a
the.
question in here where you make a statement about what has caused declining student population, but there are many factors. You can't blame just one factor on declining population. It should be a general question.
Well, if you
So
look
we
at.
should discuss these
If you-
questions.
So if you look at it, you just said, one of the first questions is, and this is on the school board questionnaire that you have right now, what areas do you believe are the district's greatest challenge?
Right, I understand that, and that's a
Right now,
general
that's,
question.
exactly, that's a general question. But the same question is, what is it, you think this district's first priority?
I'm just objecting to, there is, so my objection is that there's no process for this candidate question. There's no process because the board members, I would imagine board members submitted things to you, but there has been no discussion. And we have whole 2 months to discuss this, and we haven't. And these questions are misleading, and this is not a board's process. If you yourself,
You
feel
believe,
that
you just said you believe there is. Like I
you,
said, I think that there are questions that are relevant to the community that they want to know.
I just wanted to say that I object
Okay.
to
And
the process. There is no process or procedure. The board has not been speaking about what questions they want to ask all candidates and agree upon. And this is something that's not been practiced in any of the interviews we've ever had in the past.
And actually, that's inaccurate. That is inaccurate. Because in the past, while we picked some of the questions from the School Board Association's general list of questions, there has not been a lengthy discussion among the board. The adequacy or sufficiency, or did anybody like those questions? They were presented and they were asked. But we think, given the concerns and the climate that we're in today, we need to do a deep dive, and it is for the candidates to answer questions as they see fit. I don't think we need to answer for them or protect them. I'm sure each of them is quite capable to answer the questions that we're going to put to them.
But your comments are taken and we appreciate that coming in. But like I said, I think right now, the comments that the climate in this district, people do not feel that they've been given total information on things in this district, how each of us would have voted, and a lot of this is based on people, how they think of people vote. I think we need to ask people that are going to sit on this board what they feel in the interest of the comments and the questions that we're getting each and every day. Or comments that are being made on social media and everything else. So Right now, these are the questions that we're going to present. I think right now, I don't believe any of these questions are biased. I think they're just questions that in this time of need that we need to address. So, any other comments?
I was not going to get the questions. I would just like the public statement that then the process of this board is for the full board not to give input into questions that are offered to a candidate to the board, and that the president and vice president determine those questions and answer those questions. Is that the process?
The process was,
If that's the process, let's proceed. I wasn't aware that that was the public process, which is why I sent questions last night.
right, and I'm sorry, it took a pretty night last night. But I think that's what the confusion. I don't know. But right now, these are the questions that we've thought about. And these are the questions that have come to us a tremendous amount of time. And the process that the board leadership actually took to make this decision was not considered in my, we did send these questions yesterday. I don't know if your questions that you sent were different. I didn't get a chance to look at it. I've been going all day. But we did consider certain questions. We are also using some of the same questions from the school board, some general questions. These were just more specific and actually added more detail to the structure.
Just want to make a statement for the record. Although I'm a part of creating these questions and feel sort of slighted as a board member that I did not have the opportunity. I did not give anybody permission to create something on my behalf or to represent me in their statement without permission from me. So I want to very request, I have no part in creating these questions, and I did not select our president to speak for me.
But right now, the questions that were presented to us, I think no one had a problem with when they walked in and saw what they considered general questions that we have been doing for years and had an objection to them. Because now we're looking to ask specific questions that we get asked every day that seems to be an issue. I'm not asking anything on my behalf. I'm asking on behalf of what questions have come from this community, and we have not represented the community. Some of the answers that hopefully they want to see from the next board member who gets elected by this board, not through an election. So I think if we look at the aspects of what we're looking at, is we're looking to give hopefully detailed questions on issues that I hope most people who ask that question every day, what are you doing? How are you handling the shortfall on our taxes? Are our kids getting the proper education? How are we engaging with the community? I do not think that these are questions that should not be asked.
Mr. President, my objection is if you let a member of this board, that you keep saying I, you're not saying we. Right now, we are 8 years board, we should have had an opportunity to participate. I object to you creating questions for me and then asking those questions for me. So it's not about I, it's about we.
I think I said these are the questions that we get from the community.
Can I answer a different question? We've got 3 sets of questions, well, we've got 2 sets of questions. Are we asking the questions that are intended to be asked for those on the board and the question sheet, or on the email that we sent out to
we're gonna combine, the board candidate questions that are on one sheet and combine it with the specific questions on the other. So I've eliminated what I think are basic questions that a lot of people will explain probably in the open statement, but the context is, like I said, I want to get to a full understanding of the seriousness of our budget, the seriousness of where it's going. So the questions that I sent, I think,
So, just so we're clear, send us the questions yesterday and you'd be asking them on your behalf, on our behalf. You made that decision on your own. So we're going to finish this. At least 2 board members sent you the NJ SBA standard questions and requested that those be used instead. We never received any responses to that. There were no updates to the questions received. The advisor this evening, as in our packets, 4 candidate questions, 1 sheet for each candidate. We were then provided by the business administrator your original email. So is the intention now that you are going to interview the candidates on the board's behalf, and as you interview them, decide which questions you'll be asking them in the moment?
I selected 3 questions from the questionnaire, and the other questions from the questions that we sent out.
Okay, is your position, are you going to share with us those questions? Can you give us the numbers of what is the using form before you start the process?
Yes, I can do that.
All candidates are going to be asked the exact same question.
I understand that.
Question number 3 on the board candidate. Number 7 on the board candidate. And number 9 and 10 on the board candidate. And the rest will be questions that
So, 3, 7, 9, 10 board candidate, and then each of the questions that you sent to us yesterday, which we messaged you, 5 questions there now?
yes.
Okay. My final statement is this. 1, the questions that should be asked of the candidates, in my opinion, and based on reading policy and the purpose of the school board, questions should be directed at the qualification. Who's the most qualified individual to sit on this board? The issue I have, the concern I have, when we start wading into the questions of politics and the questions that are dividing things here in town, then the question will be, was a candidate selected because of their political leanings or because of their qualifications? So that's just my statement that I would like to put in on the record. I would also include that I object to the procedure. I think that it was, we had 60 days to do this, and so sending an email to the board so that we can work together to come together on 10 questions for 2 candidates is not a lot to ask, and we signal to the community that we can operate as functional. So that's my objection, and I just would like to put that on the record, and I would just like to thank you.
It was taken as a note, and like I said, the questions that we're asking in the same note of what you consider political issues are normal issues that we as the board can track with every day. And those political decisions, or if they are political decisions, they're questions that affect this community. I'm east of now, and I really take a stand back because most of the things that have been going on in this board have been about these same issues. The essence of what a person is on this school board is really supposed to reflect the children of this district. And as I see in the last few months, it's not about the students in this district, it's about the people's taxes, the people's misunderstanding on the understanding of what it takes to educate a child in this
No,
district.
it's not going to hold the board. You're giving us your opinion. as the president of the board,
No, I'm
you're
making a
supposed to.
statement, I'm making a
But
statement, I'm making a statement to what, to a comment
Point
that
of
was just
order. I have the floor,
Right now.
in Robert's rules of order.
Point of order.
Order, I called it first. We're not
No,
gonna
no, no,
fight about
I'm
this.
not.
We're not gonna have a fight about this. Let me finish my statement. You're speaking on your own behalf as the board president. You are only the presiding officer. You don't speak for the board unless there's a decision the board has made of importance that they need to say to the public, and they give you permission to speak on their behalf. The only other person that truly speaks for the district right now is the acting superintendent. So to sit here and give your own opinion, or reflect the board in any way, we have no duty to allow you to speak on any issue. And it's obvious that this candidate interview is your decision. So I just want to make that point. That's the point of order I'm saying right now.
And I'd like to add one comment. I think it's really unfortunate that we can't wait to let these interviews run their course, let the questions be asked, let these candidates answer, let the public hear what they think, and instead, if Ms. Ackerman is characterizing these issues as political issues. These aren't political, this is about education. So please, this is not political, and it's time to proceed.
Just 2 points in this last minute. One, going back to your point earlier about prior practice and procedure, I've been here for 2 prior appointments. And the way those were handled were that there was a set of questions that it seemed to me that the entire board was aware of, and each board member asked 1 or 2 questions. Is there a reason why you and Mr. Rogers have decided to deviate from that prior practice and procedure tonight?
Right now, that practice was ask 1 or 2 questions. It was just basically around robin. And just keeping continuity. They were the same questions.
Understood.
What we're doing is 1 person asks the question.
1 person being you, Mr. Rogers. You made that decision that you would
I
speak
don't
to the
think
board tonight.
if we had the same questions, whether 5 people answered it, I don't think in continuity. It doesn't make a difference whether I'm asking it or not. Am I going to ask it any differently than what the question is? No, I'm reading what the questions are.
That's fine,
And the
and
question
I just
is
wanted
not
to make.
One
the
person,
point.
it just seems chaotic.
That's fine.
You're going to,
If that was your decision, Mr. Rogers, you could share that with us.
okay.
He is the presiding officer of this meeting.
Not the boss of us, though, and it's a different thing. So now I'm done with my comments. You can proceed if you choose. Our objections have been included on the record, and I don't see that there's any way around it. I just wanted to clarify that prior practice and procedure was that the entire board was involved in the interview process, and that's been changed tonight. I have nothing further to say. Thank you.
And thank you. Also, no one actually sent any questions forward as these 60 days were being talked about. No one had any specific ideas about questions or what needed to be done. Right now, no one offered up any other questions. We just thought that the leadership believed that the president should get some information on what is going on and have a question as to what the people who are going to make decisions on this board, which are being questioned every day, need to be answered. So I would like to get on with this.
Mr. Rogers, just so you know, as the board president, you're supposed to ensure that the decisions and the items that the board has to take action on are proceeding as planned. It was your responsibility as president, or as a classroom in some cases, because you can't do it as vice president, to make sure that the board is informed. If you have any questions, send them to me, or we'll talk about them, we'll try to pick questions, but that didn't happen. So it's not on us to ask you what we're doing. You are supposed to ask the board to participate in getting questions together. That's your responsibility. Just so you know.
And we did get some questions together, and we forwarded. If anyone, as you said, you thought the questions were biased, I can't determine what your impressions are, but these are the questions that we're getting every day. So, if there's any other on the board, intention, please, I'd rather just get this interview over, so we can move on with this board. We have to be here at 12 o'clock at night, like the board last time. Mr. Rodrigo, give us probably be about 5 to 10 minutes for the questions. Ms. Roma, would you please come up? Yeah, I think we have your list. Yeah, we got it.
I feel, I'm going to put it back here.
What I think everyone needs to hear is, I'm going to give you 3 minutes for an open statement if you want to make it.
Okay, well, thank you. Thank you so much for the opportunity to present this evening. Very different format than I had imagined. I didn't think I was making a presentation.
Excuse me, could you speak out a little bit louder,
Okay,
so that it's
okay, is that better? Sorry about that. But I'm delighted to make a presentation. I imagine in my head the first question was going to be, why do you want to be a member of the Board of Education in Asbury Park? And, you know, I did think about that deeply, and July 1st, 2025, this year, was a very important day for me because I retired after 50 years of public service. I had worked in those 50 years, a very rewarding, very fulfilling career. I worked for 3 agencies, 2 were in New York and 1 was here in Monmouth County. I worked for the Office of People with Developmental Disabilities for 21 years. I worked for CUNY at the end of the borough of Manhattan Community College, and then most recently I was at Brookfield Community College. I think it was 15 years. Probably should know that. I realized it was very clear to me that at some point I needed to pass the torch. And for me, I thought, well, I need to pass it to a young puppy who is just much more tech savvy than I am. And that's what I did. I had a succession plan, which I started maybe a couple of years ago, and I knew the person to pass the torch to was going to be perfect. But just because I knew I needed to retire and pass the torch doesn't mean that I don't still have something to give. Like I said earlier, my whole career was in public service, and I thought, well, maybe you look at my resume and you would see some transferable skills. Now, I'm not an educator. I was in a classroom, but I taught always non-credit classes. So there was still protocol and curriculum and things that had to be done, but I just wanted to be clear on that. I have not taught public school. I come from a family of many public school teachers. A lot of my friends are retired from the public school in New York City. But I do believe I have transferable skills. When I look back on my 50-year career, I was either asked to come in and fix a program that wasn't doing so well, or to create a brand new program. Now, I'm not suggesting for a second that the Asbury school system is not going well and doesn't need to be fixed, but as a resident of Asbury Park, I'm very well aware of the issues that present to us. So I'm going to say this very upfront, so you're clear where I'm coming from and we're all clear. I'm a Jersey girl, born and raised, educated, first graduated class at Berkeley Community College, first graduated class at Ramapo College. Went on to get my master's degree at Long Island University in public administration. Yeah, that's my girl. I came back to New Jersey, I came back to Asbury Park in 1999 as a small investor. I bought a condo, rented it out, was living in Brooklyn at the time. Liked it a lot and decided to move here full time. And when I listened to the whole dialogue that was going on just prior to you inviting me up to the podium, I couldn't help but think, why can't we have a win-win? Why does it have to be that if we're looking for some kind of fiscal accountability, or why does that have to be at the expense, or appear to be at the expense that we don't care about educating children? In my 50-year career, I had to, there's an expression in grants that you have to stay sane on soft money, because you have the money and you don't have the money, and you have to plan. So as a director, as a person who has led teams in implementing grants, and most recently, the grant that I was the director of was at Brookdale Community College. We had a Tigers program for adult literacy. So that was both GED and ESL classes. And Brookdale was the lead agency, and we were a consortium. And I'm sure you know many of the partners. One is Park, right here in Asbury Park, Literacy New Jersey, Ladison, and Monmouth County Vocational School District. And when I first was hired for the position, we had an F on our report card. And then after a lot of hard work from the team that I led, we got a B. But it was always balancing both. Of course, we had to think of the student in the classroom, we had to think of the client that we were serving, but we also had an obligation to the college, to other stakeholders. And I just feel, I mean, I'm directly impacted. My taxes have gone up each year, $2,000 for the last 3 years. I was actually a little offended when I saw a full-page ad in the Tri-City News that this realtor was saying, buy this beautiful townhouse, this 3-story townhouse, and your taxes are only $12,000 a year. This townhouse was $1.3 million. And I said, well, how come you're only paying $12,000? That's what I'm paying on mine. So I know you said an opening statement, and obviously I'm a talker. People know that. But all right, let's stop. Full disclosure, Dominic was my supervisor at Brookdale back in 2014, so we know that I'm a talker. But quite seriously, because this is a serious issue, right? We need to, these kids are our future. That we're all passing torches to these kids, right? But we also have an obligation to the people of Asbury Park, because they're wonderful people. That's why I moved here. I moved here for the diversity, for the passion, for the caring of each other. I mean, and so I just really believe that maybe you look at my resume and you would say, gee, there's some transferable skills. Maybe we could utilize her, and I can do just a little bit more good in my retirement. I would be very happy. I'd be blessed to do that. This would round out my portfolio. I also am on the board of Mary's Place in Ocean Road, and I'm also a reading practitioner there. So it's a little long statement.
Thank you. You did wipe out quite a few questions that we had on the questionnaire already.
Okay.
So we want to get to some specific stuff that we hope we can enlighten us with. Can you give specific examples of your ability to maintain positive and interpersonal relationships, working as a team with a group of peers?
Absolutely, great question. If you were going to ask me what one of my strengths were, and this is in the way that you're asking that, is I'm a team builder, and I believe in win-win situations. When I first became the director back in 2014 of literacy, the first thing I did was I went around to each classroom and met with the teachers. And I remember Donald's boss at the time, he was the VP, said, "Do you want me to come with you?" And I said, "Absolutely not. I do not want you to come with me. I don't need the VP coming into the classroom." But I sat down and I listened to every instructor. And these were the instructors teaching GED or they were teaching ESL. And I wanted to hear what they had to say. I couldn't make promises, but I wanted to listen. And what I walked away with is the most important thing is they wanted communication. One of the things, if I had a prior staff person in here, they would tell you I over-communicate. But I think you cannot communicate enough. I think transparency is so important. You have to build relationships for everything, everything. When we get a grant, and if the grant is to teach a GED class, well, we know there's competing issues. There's food insecurity, there's housing issues, there's mental health issues. But the grant says we're supposed to teach GED and ESL. So what did we do? Even back when I worked for CUNY, back then we had a Rolodex. Now we don't do the Rolodexes. But what we talked about is you need to build relationships. Now, I went on the website and I saw that you do have a list of many organizations that can help parents, but I just wonder, with this question I had, is there, and I'm sure there are parent advocates, people that actually, make that happen. But relationships, I believe for everything that's, it's a we, it's definitely a we, it's never ever an I, and I believe that's one of my fortes as a skill, that I've done that successfully, which is reflected on my resume. And I can give, I'll be sure.
No, that was enough. Thank you.
Give specific examples.
Number two, sometimes board members have to make difficult decisions that may not be popular or may even be less than helpful for your own child if you have any in the district. Can you give us an example of where you had to make a decision and what to make a decision that was not well received by your colleagues, friends, neighbors, family? How did you handle this feedback?
That's a great question. I don't have children in the school district. I just think it's super important to remain objective, but even more than objective, if you always just keep your eye on what the vision and the mission is. And I believe the responsibility of the leader, the first responsibility is to make other leaders, and the second responsibility is just to continuously reinforce the vision so everybody is aligned with it. I probably made difficult decisions almost every day early on in my career because I was asking people to make a change, and nobody likes to change. I could remember something so simple. We moved to an electronic system for attendance. And I had one instructor that if he asked me once, he asked me 100 times, can I put the paper and pencil in and just put it in the mail? And I'm like, no, you can't. So in order to bring a program from an F to a B, all I did was make unpopular decisions. But they knew my heart, and I was able to do it. To be honest with you, I just was very dogmatic about it. I believe I was clear, and I really believe that I wasn't out to get anybody. I was just trying to do what's right for the program and the students that we were serving.
Thank you. Next question. This question really relates to COVID. One of the questions that came out. So, kind of the worry of it a little bit. We just came through the story and the challenges no one can perceive. Education has become much more physical and much more political. What do you believe is the role of the school district in educating children?
I'm just saying the very last line was the role of.
What do you believe is the role of the school district in educating their children?
That's their main role, I would say. I mean, you're linking that to COVID, so I'm not clear on the question. I'm so sorry.
Well, basically, it was homeschooled,
Right.
how we can put the perspective of how intrusive probably, it was in that process. I don't want to overstate any question, but that's the big question. That's one of the questions that was on there.
Right. Well, obviously, COVID was devastating to the world, and it was a very, very scary time. I'm very proud to say that Brookdale, at least the programs that I oversaw adult literacy, the youth literacy programs, and youth place homemakers, I mean, it took us maybe a hot minute to get on our feet, but we did. So we came together. I had a few people that were a little resistant, and to be honest with you, what I said to them is, look, I'm gonna make this happen, whether you're with me or not. If you're not with me, just get out of my way, because we're gonna do this. Did every student come back? No, we did not. But we, at one point, had 500 students enrolled in literacy, and I think we brought back like 275. We very quickly got together, we developed a local laptop program. You know, the teachers were instrumental in reaching out to the students, the coordinators. I mean, it was a total team effort, but we did it, and we did it, I thought, very successfully. And it was interesting because the ESL students couldn't wait to come back to the classroom, but a lot of the GED students, they were okay doing it online. And to this day, our youth GED program is totally online. It's not in the classroom. And I hope that answers the question. I'm not sure if I did.
Like I said, that's why I went through a lot. That one was kind of kept in there, but it's really. Are you aware of the time and training commitments, ethics laws, and financial disclosure required for the school board?
I would say no, to answer you very directly. I mean, I would imagine that there's all protocols. I've served on other boards, not the Board of Education, but I'm sure I can bring myself up to speed on what is needed, and I would certainly comply with any rule or regulation or policy.
Thank you. Now, the dreaded questions.
Okay.
Asbury has been faced with the declining state aid over the past decade due to a variety of reasons, including S2 cuts. How would you approach difficult decisions when it comes to budget priorities?
Well, I would imagine that's probably one of the most difficult decisions any board member makes. And of course, students first, we have to look at that, but I think at the same time, you have to balance the whole thing. Like I said earlier, I've always been in charge of grants where there's accountability. I mean, if there's lower enrollment, then maybe that has to, if there's a lower enrollment, maybe that has to match how many buildings we have. I don't know, those are just questions. I feel like that's the big elephant in the room, because I'm not on social media a lot, but I do see what goes on in the next door neighborhood, and you know, I'm a resident. I love Asbury. I want everything to succeed in Asbury. The businesses, the school system, the kids, you know, Brookdale has many good programs right here with ERA that I'm very well aware of, and all the good work that's being done. But I think you can't be afraid of making difficult decisions. Everything changes, and I think we have to change along with that. And that doesn't mean we don't care. And, you know, I just go back to what I said earlier. Why not strive to create a win-win instead of, it always appears like, well, if the residents win, the students are going to lose. And I'm like, why? And to me, that it just doesn't make sense. And I figured that I'm almost going to be 74, I get to say what I really believe.
Asbury is the place with declining student population and the last part due to free charge schools that serve our population. What would you recommend to our district to encourage students and families to attend the district schools?
I didn't really hear the whole rest of that question, I'm sorry.
Asbury Park has faced a declining student population, in the large part due to free charter schools that serve our population. What would you recommend our district do to encourage students and families to attend the district schools?
I think whether I'm for or against charter schools, I think they do take valuable resources away from the regular schools. I think we would have to look at the issue very holistically. And I mean, I always have a saying that if you want to know the end, you look at the beginning, right? So I don't know. I don't know what kind of, like, for us, when I worked at Brookdale, we would have a very strong, vibrant orientation, right? We would invite people in to visit us. So maybe, I don't know, maybe you do this already or you don't, but is there a way that you invite the community in to showcase the good work that's being done in all the schools in Asbury? I mean, you definitely need the parent buy-in. I mean, I think that's so important. I think we have to show success. I mean, people want to know what they're getting for their tax dollars, including the parents of the kids that come here. So, I mean, I think it would be a multi-pronged approach, but, yeah, it would have to be a holistic approach. I think it all starts with what your vision is going to be and what it is you want to try to accomplish. And if it's to have parents say, gee, come back to Asbury, not go to the charter school, we have to give them a really good reason why we should do that.
Thank you. What do you see as the district's top priority when it comes to academics and why?
Well, I think we want all our students to succeed. You know, I saw on the website that there was a list of all the goals that you had for 23 and 24, just wondering if we met those goals here in Asbury. So the top priority is always educating the students as best we can. They're our future. I'm sorry, just give me a second part of the question.
This academics, why? But basically, you covered it.
Well, because that's what we want. We want an educated community. We want an educated city. We want an educated country. And you know that seems to be more important now than ever. We have to ensure that happens. And yet I do believe in choice, right? If the parent is choosing, but we have to give them a reason to come to us. You know, and I know that might not. That might sound a little bold because this is education, but maybe we have to put a smidgen of business in it, you know.
How many board meetings have you attended in the past 2 years, and what are your top takeaways for you about the district's progress? Include in your answer if you attended the special March 2025 meeting on the budget and school funding.
I'm guilty as charged on the whole question because I have not attended. I think I attended one board meeting. I'm sorry to say that, but I haven't. I do, keep up with the local tri-city news, next door neighbor. I know what the neighbors are saying, so that's what keeps me abreast of what's going on. And I'm very well aware, because like I said, it's affecting me directly of what's going on. I'm sorry to say the same thing again, but I just believe we could create a win-win. But no, I'm sorry to say I have not attended. Shame on me.
No. The last and final question. How do you plan to engage our community, families, and students in the district decision making?
Well, if I was invited to fill the vacancy on the board right now, I mean, I think it's a little bit of what I did successfully when I worked, is go out to the community, invite the parents in, listen to their concerns. I think that's so important. I'm not saying that you don't do that now, but yeah, I mean, I think it has to be very heavy with, the parent engagement. And I think also, I'm going to go out on a limb here a little bit to say this. I mean, obviously there's a divide in the school board. And, just by listening to the dialogue that went back and forth, and I was sitting there and I couldn't help but say to myself, if I was the director and you were all reporting to me, I would give a second thought on a lot of things, because I think it's so important that you don't have that strong foundation, and that comes from all of you, have to be on board and align with the vision, and, whatever it is, I don't know what the true answer is, but if it's divided in here, it's gonna be divided out there. And I think this is where it happens. I'm just gonna say one more quick thing. It reminded me when I was in a meeting with some of my staff, and then at some point I said, okay, you defined the problem that wasn't, now give me 4 solutions.
I believe that's the correct comment. Thank you. Someone could reach out. How are you? Yeah. How are you? We're gonna give you 3 minutes to give an opening statement, and then we'll go on to some questions.
I don't think I need 3 minutes, but good evening, everybody.
You want to break it?
Alex Pinko, 2001 Second Avenue, Asbury Park. Thought this was a good opportunity to get involved and contribute to the community. As you saw in my cover letter resume, I was a board member for 3 years in Montreux, board vice president, finance chair for 2 years, and the insurance committee. So kind of did a little bit of everything. It's the largest urban school district in the state. While very different than Asbury Park, faces some similar challenges. Loss of state aid S2, declining enrollment, losing a superintendent and having to go through a superintendent search, and also division on board. And I think that my experience there plus other experiences like being involved with our $160 million construction referendum, dealing with the response to the COVID-19 pandemic, would make me able to join this board and hit the ground running right away. Further questions?
Thank you. The first question. Please give us specific examples of your abilities in maintaining positive interpersonal relationships and working as a team with a group of peers.
So, as I mentioned, we had a pretty contentious superintendent search when I was on my previous board. Very strong opinions. The board was equally divided and it went on for like a year. And I worked, regardless of who you supported, to maintain positive relationships. There were some people doing name calling on social media and trying to stay above the fray. And during the search, I became board vice president, supported by people who wanted who I wanted and people who didn't want who I wanted. Because I think they had confidence that even if they didn't agree with me, I'd be honest, I'd bring people together, I'd say what I need to be what I say.
Okay. Sometimes board members have to make difficult decisions that may not be popular or may be less than helpful for your own child. If you had any children in the district, can you give us an example of where you had to make a decision that was not well received by your colleagues, friends, neighbors, and family? And how did you handle their feedback?
So, as you may or may not know, Tom's are much more conservative politically community than Asbury Park. And I was on the board during COVID-19, having to support school closures, mask mandates, and it doesn't matter what you personally think, that you have to follow policy, follow law. There was a lot of angry people coming up to the mic at meetings. We had an executive session where people were banging on the windows literally because they were so have to do with the process, we have board members that follow the law. And so it didn't make it very popular, but I think the right thing.
This is a question I told everybody's question that came out of COVID. So we just came through an extraordinary year of challenges no one would have ever foreseen. Education has become much more visible and more political. What do you believe in the role of the school district in educating their children?
I think it's to give the Constitution mandated thorough and efficient education that all children in the state deserve, regardless of background, zip code, and we need to create a budget, policy curriculum that supports that goal, and despite our differences, work together towards that goal.
Are you aware of the time, training, commitment, ethics, laws, and financial disclosure required for the school work?
Like,
Okay, now to the controversial questions. Asbury Park has faced declining state aid over the past decade due to a variety of reasons, including S2 cuts. How would you approach the proposed decision when it comes to budget priorities?
I think something that I did in my previous board experience that I would want to do as a member of this board is to be a little more aggressive, conservative, approaching the state. We can't just lay out and take the 8 cuts because they're investing in the school district. You see people angry with consequences, which was tax increases. So we need to engage people at the state level more. I know that that's being done, but I always think there's room to do more and to push back, and also let the community know why we're in this issue. I think that 90% of Asbury Park residents probably do not know what S2 is, that they should be angry about it, that they should be advocating with state legislators, and the governor's office, and the Department of Education on this issue. But if we engage the community, make them aware, it can be a more powerful force together, advocating for our district.
Thank you. Asbury faced a decline in student population in large due to 3 charter schools that serve our population. What would you recommend our district do to encourage students and families to attend the school district?
I think it's important that you say things to people that they'll get a better education at public school and Asbury Park than going to a charter school. So it's all about selling ourselves, whether it be improvements in metrics or programs that we have that charter schools don't have. But I think that's a serious issue that is facing.
What do you see as the district's top priority when it comes to academics and why?
I think to the point I just made, when people focus on metrics, scores, math scores, etc., and if we can have tangible improvements in those metrics, I think that helps us able to show the community that tax dollars are being put to good work, convinces people in charter schools that they should come back to Asbury public schools. So I hate the idea of teaching to the test or focusing too much on the test, but I do think, being a person by trade, that the metrics are important.
How many board meetings have you attended in the past 2 years, and what are your top takeaways for you about the district's progress? Include, if you're in your answer, if you attended a special march. I'm sorry. How many board meetings have you attended in the past 2 years? What are your top takeaways about the district's progress? Include in your answer if you attended the special March 2025 meeting on the budget and school funding.
Sorry, this is the only been to a few meetings that I watched, and I feel like as a member of the public, easier to do that. If you don't have a specific question, that's just my opinion. I know it's good to have strong turnout at meetings. I was on vacation for the March meeting, I did watch the poll online. I thought that was a really good thing in terms of showing transparency about the budget. You go through a lot of questions. But my big takeaway is that there's serious division on the board. And the goal of my group is to try to bring people together because this type of division doesn't help the kids, doesn't help the teachers, doesn't help the community.
How do you plan to engage the community, families, students in the district in this information?
I think it's going out to the community and being present. Like I said, I'm someone who's a former board member, and I'm saying that coming to a board meeting is the most effective way to communicate with leaders. I'm sure people that aren't as interested in this in the community feel the same way. Going to community events, the town hall was a good first step, but I think there's only certain types of people that go to the town hall. Going to the media and trying to talk about the great things that are happening here, whether it's student achievement, teacher achievements, things that will bring prestige to the school district.
Thank you. We appreciate you coming in, and we're going to probably, sit back and talk about this. And thanks again. I really want to thank both candidates. You can have her come in. Okay, I want to thank both candidates for coming in. Even to come up and stand in front of, what was going to deal with prior to the meeting. But, a lot of stake on this board and trying to establish, as you said, a happy meeting. But I want to thank you guys for showing up because I know for a lot of people in this community have shown up and would do as much as you've got done. So I appreciate you coming out. Thank you. Okay, we're going to go to the presentation.
Mr. Rogers, the next agenda item will be to go to executive session and discuss the interviews of the candidates and quick one. I think wasn't that what we were going to do, or that's not on the agenda?
We can go to executive. Go into executive. We can do that right now. Should we go into executive session?
Motion to go into executive session just for the discussion of candidates with the
Second.
Roll call.
Ms. Evans? Yes. Ms. Clark? Yes. Mr. Roberts? Mr. Cynthia? Yes. Dr. Bennett? Yes. Ms. Trish? Yes. Ms. Lassiter? Ms. Rogers?
Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be in executive session for approximately 30 minutes to discuss the candidates for these vacancies. The board is not going to take any action in executive session. To the extent that the board is going to take any formal action, it will be done out here in this room at the conclusion of the executive session. So if you could just give the board your indulgence for about 30 minutes or so, we will be returning to this room. Thank you.
Roll call.
Yes.
We're going to turn the mic over to our.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, the board, after reading an executive session, the board has decided that they will not be voting to fill the vacancy this evening. As a result, since the vacancy is going to be extending into the 65th day, the board is going to be without the ability to appoint someone after day 65. So in view of the situation, the board is going to notify the executive county superintendent, Dr. Richards, that the board has not filled the vacancy and is anticipating that Dr. Richards will probably advertise to the public and invite members of the public who are interested to submit applications or letters of interest directly to him, and then he will make the determination as to the next board member to be seated. Thank you.
Thank you.
We won't choose from the two candidates that we have before us. It will be an entirely process.
To be clear, Dr. Richards decides what the process is. Most likely, I would imagine that he will invite people to apply, but again, he has the final say in how he's going to decide the process. Sure.
Okay. We're back to presentation. I'm sorry. Presentations by the principals. Okay. Report of the committee chairs.
Mr. Robbins, can I just say one more thing before we move on? Eddie, I'll speak on behalf of myself. I would like to thank Mr. Musenko and Ms. Roma for coming, for dedicating their time and submitting their application and being willing to sit on the board. So we thank you very much for your time. I truly appreciate it. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Report of the committee chairs. We get the finance chair. Okay, we combine finance and building and grounds.
Essentially, finance into buildings and grounds because, again, all of the issues that we're dealing with in Boston. We did first discuss the use of facilities. We first discussed the use of facilities fee waiver request for the Asbury Park PAL stock account, including the that we expect them to pay the custodial fee. Again, for practice in the past year, we just really can't afford to waive a custodial fee that we just paying out. We also began to review in detail the proposed agreement with the Monmouth Ocean PAL and the Asbury Park School District for the use of the Obama School. We went page by page through the proposed lease agreement and comments that we received from PAL, and we expressed our concerns and comments to Ms. Brown, who was then going to meet with our council to revise the lease agreement, and our recommendation was to turn it into a facilities use agreement, and we're still waiting to see the revisions, and then we'll go back to PAL sorry, PAL after that. We reviewed the status of the board approved sale of the parent center. And the bid process is being worked on between our council and Ms. Brown. We talked about the board approved sale of the maintenance building, and that decision may or may not need to be reconsidered if this board cannot agree on building another facility on the Banks Avenue property. We can't sell the maintenance building, and that will, in turn, if we can't sell the maintenance building, that will create an immediate hole in this year's budget. Because we did account for the sale of that building. At the present time, the city wanted to enter into a shared facilities agreement with the school district, but if we can't get consensus on that building, we have much bigger issues to do. Or we will end up, if we have consensus among this board, we will be building the facility without the contribution of the city. We did talk about the status of the remediation of the maintenance property, and we did get updates. The soil testing has been completed. We should get the results back the week of next week, September 29th. And we will have a subcontractor, an authorized subcontractor to install the monitoring well in October to conduct the groundwater test. Next, we talk about the tennis initiative. And we have,
If I reading the minutes, can we talk about that in executive session? Because we do have an agreement with them. It seems that some of this, these items on our meeting, your meeting minutes might be minimal, spoken about in executive session.
well, I would like to report that we reported to the committee that there are issues with the condition of the tennis courts, and at this time, we are recommended that the school district cannot accept the courts as is until the defects are remediated, but we are in discussions with the tennis initiative to make sure that that will occur. And last, we discussed the situation of the Asbury Park Technical Dance Academy, and we agreed that they would pay $600 a month for the facility, that would be $5,400 a year, and the maintenance staff has switched its coverage to ensure that there are custodial services that would not cost additional amounts for either the district or the dance academy. So we think that we've come up with a viable solution for the dance academy in recognition of the important role that the dance academy plays in the community.
I do want to thank for making this accomplishment with the dance studio. The staff in our last meeting overwhelmingly came out and offered to, volunteer their services. And let me say, I really appreciated that. The only thing is that by law and the advice of our attorney, it would have been against labor practices to actually have people come out and work for free or volunteer time. So this came out to be the best solution where we actually saved a couple of problems because we do have activity in the high school with basketball games. So in getting the staff to change their schedule to get that accomplished saved us a lot, but also now accomplished that we will have a dance academy in our school, which will be open to our kids, which is amazing. And that basically says that we just added another program, not academic, but I think something is needed in our schools. So I appreciate the board for working, especially Dominic, that was very instrumental in working with us in this situation starting to, I would have to thank the board.
And I think we want to add to the Asbury children and go correct as a part of the.
Or it was, yes, to reduce services, so I appreciate it.
Well, there's a benefit there to our children and all of us, including interns, which of the custodian is being covered.
Yes, thank you.
The only question I have about custodian switching schedules, do we have an agreement from the APEA that this is something that's specific to this individual item and that it's not to be construed as being a past practice or anything like that? Do we have
That
an
practice that has been done before.
I'm not-
It has been done before when they had switched, custodial staff.
I'm not aware of that.
Yes.
So we have a letter from them that's associated with that. Just the document.
I mean, I can get one, but. we'll get
Yeah,
it.
just want to make sure that it's okay with you doing this. This is okay.
If I recall correctly, we had a lot of activities over the course of the last year that we thought that we could do because the custodians went on a different split schedule to cover the
Okay, next is curriculum, I'll take that.
Everything about the program? All of it?
Just the last.
Yes, if we can't come to a resolution on the pole barn, and I'm sorry to use that phrase because it doesn't have to look likely. People might, think of this pole barn. The idea, and we show some pictures, is a very attractive structure that even has a sitting porch around it. It will look more like a residential structure than a commercial, purely commercial bare-bones space. But if we can find a way to house our equipment and our chemicals, we're not going to be able to sell them in this building. Because we have no choice to store anything. Mr. Trevino and Mr. LaRocca went on a tour of a high school, which was the only other possibility, and Mr. LaRocca was thinking about where we could locate the trucks, the heavy equipment, and chemicals. We can put chemicals in a school building, and in order to use the only place near the baseball, which was in the old tennis courts, in order to require us to go down to bedrock and then spend about $15 million to stabilize the ground because of the vibrations from the trains, that we can't afford it. It's prohibitively expensive. So really the only place in the city that exists for something this size is the space next to the middle school, after the tennis court, or we don't sell it.
If you consider the motor vehicle building next to Bradley School as a possible site, because I'm not sure. I think the last time we got a quote on a pole barn, it was like $500,000. And if I know the city at this point is using that facility for storing their fire equipment before they open their firehouse over there on Memorial Drive, that may be a situation that building can be, and I heard they're not paying a lot of rent on the they're not paying a lot of rent on the state, from the state of New Jersey on that facility. because it's just empty land that the state is not using, and I'm not quite sure what the long-term plan, if any, that the state has for that building. Has anybody approached the state or asked the city what their arrangement is with the state of New Jersey for the storage? I know I mentioned it before, and I don't think they're following through.
They don't have any prospect for that, and the city's only possibility, that when you have said to me, is sharing with us in building this structure between the two schools. They do not have any other option.
Do you have an official letter from the city representative that they are willing to go in with us on this whole one?
Yes, we do.
I asked you to provide one of the you mentioned it, I haven't seen it.
The mayor sent a letter.
Can you provide it to the board so you have the information?
Mr. Cadena.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And, Ms. Glassman, the city actually wants to actually ask us about, right? About coming in to utilize the property. So if they have other alternatives, I don't think they would come to us to ask if they don't have access. So, we really have to consider this because it's this piece of property we're selling hopefully will help to not, to help with not increasing the taxes. So let's think about if we have the other options, we need to get into the Buildings and Grounds Committee. If you think of other options, we'll try it, but we're gonna have to make a decision no later than November, because hopefully when we get this property, the EPA done, I hope we look forward to selling it, because it will substantially help any increase that we have to this budget. So thank you.
So you're saying you will ask in a general way about the Motor Vehicle Commission building that's not even utilized by the state of New Jersey, to see what arrangement the city has at this point? Because it would probably cost them a lot less than $500,000 at this point. And then we can go forward after that, just having a place to store the vehicles and things that are flammable if we don't have a permanent solution.
I'll undertake to confirm that it is or is not.
I'll make a motion that the administration investigate the alternative motor vehicle commission, since it gives us another opportunity. That's something else to think about. And making a decision to put a structure over there in between the tennis courts and the normal school.
Second the motion.
It wouldn't hurt to just look into it.
Right now, any questions, discussions about the motion? Roll call.
Ms. Ackerman? Yes. Ms. Clark?
Yes.
Mr. Lara? Yes. Ms. Linsky?
Yes.
Dr. Kenneth?
Yes.
Ms. Ricks?
Yes.
Ms. Glassman? Ms. Martin?
Yes. Okay, next committee is curriculum.
I'll take that. Yeah, our committee was a little short this month. One thing this last one is joining us. We had quite a few things on the agenda.
Slow down.
I wanted to make sure.
I can listen and do this.
I wanted to make sure that, try to be a little more communicative this month. I know last month was a little bit contentious. I think one of the agenda items on the, that we put up, I didn't think it was that big of a deal, but apparently it was. I'll be honest, I was taken aback, and I took it a little personal. I'm just being a human being right now. But at the same time, I thought about it. I said, you know, what is it that is not being communicated to this membership that needs to be communicated and why? So I had to really take a deep look at myself, because I'm the person who has this, who has the CNI committee. And I have to make sure that anything that goes on my agenda is clearly understood by every member of the board. So I've undertaken a couple of methods of doing that. I've sent out minutes now, you see that's a little more abbreviated. I've sent out answers, different colors, so you guys can see several members have asked questions, so hopefully you can have a chance to review them. But I do want to take this time to talk about what happened last month a little bit. What I did was I started to just ask questions to folks in the organization. I had a really great meeting with ITC, and I said to them, listen, this is what I'm hearing, this is my understanding. People are hearing gaming, and they think that students are in school playing video games, and that's not what's happening. And it's very hard to, when people hear esports, that they don't assume that students are just sitting on a computer playing video games, and that's not what's happening. So it's important that I be able to communicate that with you. So I asked Dr. Leader to come here to talk as well, but I want to tell you the conversation that I had with John. He was one of those opportunities where sometimes you just got to listen. But I had a lot of opinions and I was very angry, but I just stopped and I listened. And he said a lot of good things. And I understood a lot of what was going on. But it helped us come to an agreement and an accord how we can make the esports work after school the way we've normally done it and not affect the network. We have a network that's, and I'm going to do this layman's terms. We have a network like this, and we need a network pipeline networks like this. And right now we don't have the money for a network pipeline networks like this. What I love about John is that he was already thinking of solutions to try to get us here. And we're going to work with solutions, but it's going to take us till about July so that we can have it ready. And in the interim, we found a way to make it work so that our kids can continue to participate in esports. When I say sports, they're competing against other teams and not affect the network. So we came up with a great solution. We came up with a time when the students can get on, how we ramp up the program as we go, and I think we're in a good place right now with esports. But I want you to know that it's much more than just playing video games. I'm gonna let Mr. Medina talk about that. So the other part was GCU, which was confusing to a lot of folks. I want to be real clear. In the past, my agenda was dominated by me and what I put on there and what the superintendent put on there. We worked a little differently over the last year and a half. I am in support of the buildings now. So buildings, I maintain certain things. I make it clear to everybody, you're not going to bring any program in because if it interferes with what we're doing and what we've already voted on and what we've already agreed to work with our students with and our teachers, I'm not going to allow it. So there's a lot of things you guys never see come across here, the table here, because I stop. But when they do come across, I want you to know there's a lot of doors that goes behind it. A couple of things that happen. One is that we have the SIA, which is which you get ISP as well, which is our school improvement plan, which is by the state, ASP, excuse me, I said it wrong. Yeah, the annual school plan. And the annual school plan is dictated by the state and it's federal funds that come in. And we actually sit with the state and they sit with each individual principal. They can tell you, I'm not going to go into detail, but everything is vetted very. They vet everything that we put on there. There are so many things that we want to do, like we want to buy furniture. They say, no, we can't. We just use 10%, that's it, of the total allotment, and you cannot go over that. So they're very strict on how we use the money. We have to write SMART goals. The plans are thorough, and I tell you, I'll put our plans against anybody's plan in the state. I tell you the amount of praise that we get for our plan, because remember, these ladies and gentlemen who work for the state who come in, they work with many districts. When they see our plan, they're always impressed, and they come back and they always tell us, what a great job we do. And we stick to our plans. Our plans are very, very tight. I say that to you all because when you do see an item that comes across that says it's paid by SIA money, it's ready to be vetted by the state. It's not something that we take lightly. So I want to be clear. I can go into detail, I don't go into all the detail here today because those will bore you to death. But like I said, with the GCU project, I'm going to let Mr. Medina kind of talk to you a little bit about why it's important that you understand exactly what it is we're trying to do for our students at the high school and the opportunities that can come for them if we can move forward. Mr. Medina, if you don't mind. Thank you.
All right, good evening. I'm gonna be concise, but as specific as I can be. So starting from the most recent statement, GCU, which is Georgia Ford University, this all stems from ensuring that when students graduate with a diploma from Asbury Park High School, that they're competitive, right? That they can match up with students from Neptune, Long Branch, and the surrounding districts. As was spoken about tonight, the S2 bill and all the budget constraints we've had, it's become extremely challenging to provide comparable services, right? So we've become extremely innovative in bringing community partners, academic partners, and so with Georgia Ford University, they want to partner with us to create a dual enrollment program. Now we do have a dream program, which is the Brookdale, but like some of the high schools are doing, we're engaging with multiple colleges and universities, we need to kind of do the same. So with this, we are beginning to engage in esports program, which students will be able to get college credit for. And that goes beyond, it goes with video production, casting, journalism, everything that goes with producing an event. The gaming part is actually a small piece. There's also a heavy emphasis on graphic design, video game design, publishing, etc. With our esports program, it's twofold. There's an in-school component, which is one of our electives, which again goes through all of the pieces I mentioned. And then there's our after-school program, which is specific to the actual esports team. And that's where our students engage with other high schools in competition. And just for some reference, this is a billion-dollar business. There are plenty of universities and colleges that offer scholarships to this. Brookdale is actually one of the leaders in Georgia Ford that are engaged in that conversation. So this is really at the end of it, making sure our students are on par with everyone else, and really trying to forecast some of the trends and issues that we face with education. It's fast moving, it's quickly moving, and if we blink or stay still too long, we run the risk of having our students fall further behind. So with the partnership with Georgia Ford and the esports program, and there's also in the works if we can get the Georgia Ford partnership going, a filmmaking elective in which, or filmmaking credits, in which students will be able to get credit for producing film. As you know, Netflix is coming. A lot of studios are coming with it. I mean, there are plenty of studios that exist in New Jersey anyway. So I do want to credit some of the other organizations that have been working with us. The Asbury Park Arts Council, Florida State Esports, which is the leader of esports education in the state and other states at this point. And they work closely with New Jersey to produce curriculum for this venture. So, you know, I would love to engage in more conversations, but for the sake of time, I'm hoping that I touch on a couple of points that are critical to understanding why we are engaging in innovative programming. Because at the end of the day, we have to make our students competitive with their neighbors. I'll take questions.
I just have one, Dr. Mina. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. Approximately how, so we're going beyond Brookdale, this program really is what we're talking about here. Do you have an approximate number of how many schools and they are they all local, or is it a little bit more state?
As far as schools, as far as that one partner with us, or schools that run the sports program?
I guess, well, I guess the most important piece here, right, is that the students are graduating with 3 to 5 credits or 3 credits college credits?
6 credits.
So 6 credits, sorry. And so where will they be able to transfer those credits to? I guess is my question.
Yes, so obviously, and this is true for all partnerships, that the college has partnered with you, hopes that they go to that school. But we do have the ability for students to take those credits and go right to Brookdale if they want to go their route, going to GCU if they want to go their route, or going to another college that does take credits in esports. So more colleges are coming online with esports programming. So every year there are dozens of colleges coming online with all the programs.
Thank you for clarifying. Appreciate it.
My only question was about the student who just felt like, let me try this and get it elected, that you guys are looking at, and I think I saw where there's a grant this time for dual enrollment that will be to evaluate when you bring up a high school syllabi that will give that student the high school hours as an elective, if in fact it is the one class, we have the three credits. So we got that, let's go. We got that, right?
Yeah, I think you're asking if they do the college credit, they get, like Brookdale, they get both, they get the college and high school credit. But I think the distinction, real quick, before we say anything, is that this opens dual enrollment opportunities for students outside of the DREAM program. So that means any student at the high school now can decide, you know what, I'm gonna take a couple of credits, high school credit, college credits, and it's open to them. You can correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, no, that's exactly the point. In this 2025, with the genesis of the enrollment program was obviously novel, it was great, kids are exiting high school with degrees, but it's grown since, right? So there's a great permanency in the idea that students can earn some credits, maybe not a degree, but then we use that to transfer, some cost savings, measure for some families. But we do have a grant that we've applied for that will take care of the bulk of the funding, even outside of the SIA funding, which is still not touching only the local funds. And then the other thing I forgot to mention, and the Garden State Esports Association is also working with the state to get industry credentials. So this is another opportunity that if a student doesn't want to go to college, they'll actually have legitimate technical training to enter a professional field at high school. Yeah, the game plan is the curriculum for our esports elective. So it's a platform built by the state, built by Garden State Esports that produce essentially the platform in which students can engage in some of their learning. So there are modules, there's text and video, the platform allows students to build games, to code. So that's just the game plan is the platform and curriculum we use going forward.
I just have a couple of questions. The platform you're just talking about, they earn high school credits for that when they take that elective?
Yes, so completing a program, which is using that platform, once they get through it, they will earn the credits for that semester.
Now, the other question I had, because of the way we approached the Brookdale dual enrollment, is we started with a freshman class and went through a whole 4-year curriculum where at the end they were able to get an associate's degree and graduate from high school with have all the credits to do all that. So my confusion is that we're starting with a senior and getting 3 or 6 credits for a college that I'm not so sure that they're going to go anywhere with it. Not that that's a problem, but my confusion is the alternative would to develop a program where you start as a freshman and you get credits for some sort of end result when you graduate high school and associate's degree in, let's say, Georgia Board or something. And I understand this esports, and I'm a fan of esports. I loved it when I was in middle school. I was an advocate of it when it started. I had no problem with esports, and it's a great way to learn a lot of things in technology and graphics and programming and everything else. So it's a minor at Georgia Court.
Yeah.
So they need a major. Let's say they wanted to go to Georgia Court, they would still need a major to complete their college education. So that was my confusion. You don't start as a freshman, you're starting as a senior, and then you're working your way backwards. So that just confused me. So that's why I had so many questions about it, because it didn't make sense. And it's still not making sense totally, just so you know.
Let me just say this too. I think what we're trying to do is give a couple of different pathways, right? And sometimes, as Brookdale's program is structured in a way that those students who go through that program come out with an associate degree. That doesn't necessarily mean every student has to have that same structure. It just means that now we want to offer students other opportunities to gain credits, which could likely load when they do go to college, even if it's just 3 credits, even if it's 6 credits, or even 12 credits. That 12 credits can amount to thousands of dollars of savings for that student if they go to school with those credits already in hand. Will all of them transfer? No, not 100% of credits don't transfer to 100% of the schools, but they will transfer to some of the schools. And if these consortiums, if they're working with the Garden State esports, they're going to transfer because Garden State esports is the premier, and actually, I think in the country that's doing this this kind of curriculum. The whole goal is to give students some extra opportunities to be able to save some money, to take college classes, and to earn credits, both in college and in high school. So that's what we're doing. I just want to give these kids more opportunities.
I just had one question slash comment. I think what we have been struggling with is kind of the bigger picture, right? I think you've answered a lot of questions that have explained to us that this is an alternative dream academy, which I think is crucial. Is it possible for, to avoid questions in the future, if there was a way for you to provide to the board, with Mr. Divino, obviously, an overview of the curriculum and how this fits in? Very high level, I'm not asking for anything, a white paper, just maybe an overview so that we can see when a new program comes up that we'd like to incorporate, we can see where it fits in kind of immediately. And I think that will be, I don't want to speak for everyone, but it'll maybe a lot of my questions.
I think your point, and that's kind of the soul searching I had to do over the last month, and I realized that. So I will provide whatever you need. Be careful what you ask for. No, I'll be sure you get what you need. That's absolutely reasonable. Thank you.
This is exactly what I wanted to say, that we have committee chairs. I don't want to overstep anybody, and I want everyone to get all their questions answered. And if you do it, you go through a protocol. You talk to the chair first, and if they have, they want to use now this email and staff to give a full presentation. I don't think any of us should mind some of the relationships and questions that go on. The other thing is we just want to make sure that people realize that the amount of time of these board meetings that we're extending, and I appreciate everyone coming out, but also we're trying a lot of these academic situations going forward for the time of the school district. So, really what it is.
So I'll say this as it goes to the committee. Right now, we're down 3 members. In addition, the way the committee chairs have been set up, it's so that 4 people on this board have direct access to all of the information before the agenda is compiled. And this has been an ongoing issue. So I thank you for pointing out that there's a protocol that I should do that as the committee chair in advance, despite the fact that Mr. Ruiz and Dr. Medina came here tonight especially to present to us. So I appreciate your point there on protocol, but I would also just reiterate that if there was a better distribution of committee chairs across the 9 members, or 8 members of the board at this time, more of us would have access to the information at every time. So I thank you for your comments, and I thank everyone for it.
Well, let me say that.
Sorry, one more thing. And I'll thank you not to tell me what I may and may not ask during the board meeting. That's open and public. I'm an elected board member. There's a presentation being made. You open the floor to questions. That's what I did. I asked my questions. We resolved a lot. Mr. Ruiz has expressed to us that he spent a lot of time making sure that he provided information we requested. And that was me showing my perspective and that I appreciated it. But either way, I have every right to ask whatever I would like while sitting at this dais. That's what I was elected to do.
Well, Ackerman, I correct you. I never told you what you could and could not ask. What I said to you, if you want me to repeat, I said there is a protocol. I said right now we're going to that protocol, but that's assuming. And if we get into this back and forth, the distribution of some of the committee members, if I remember, was disrupted because we had ethical issues that were charged against people for having ability. No. Go on to, no. So, no, right now, no, you make comments, and I'll address them. Right now, there was a disproportionate amount of people that were conflicted off of these committees, and so the limited amount that we did have, we were stepped up to. There is a process, and there's a process with this board. There's ethical issues that go on. of how we reach out to these staff members. I've already talked to the superintendent, he has no real problem. He just asks you to, if you're reaching out to the staff, to send him some of the questions, he will forward it, he'll get back to you. There's never been any transparency or issue of allowing anyone to ask a question. I want you to ask questions, but also we left this meeting last month at 12 o'clock. And I was sick. I was tired. I was ready to leave out at 10 o'clock. So the amount of time that we didn't get information, there's times that let's be respectful to this staff and these people and the people in this community, not to sit here to 12 o'clock in the evening to get questions answered. So don't make it seem like you wanted to disallow me to ask me questions. I resent that, and I think that is the most unethical comment to ever be made.
Mr. Rogers, let me clarify. I've never reached out to the staff member and asked them a question directly. I respect my ethical requirement that I reach out to Mr. Trevino as acting superintendent if I have a question about anything. We were sitting here at this dais, a presentation was made, you asked if there were questions, I presented my question to Mr. Ruiz and Mr. Trevino. You can check the record when you want, when you have a chance. I addressed Mr. Trevino and Mr. Ruiz directly, and I made that request. Please,
I never said you did. You keep on bringing it up. I never said you did.
Rogers, you just said, I may not contact a staff member directly. If you're going to make comments.
I said to you, right now, Mr. Trevino is our employee. Right now, you have to go through him to ask the question. That's all I said. I didn't say you can ask the question. I just said you have to go through, but they are opening up the presentation and it came out. I don't want to go back and forth.
No, but right, I don't either, but you're changing your story every time you say it. So
But
I'll
I'm
just
sure
say,
you never did.
you asked if there were questions or comments. I asked Dr. Medina a question, and you didn't comment on it. But then when I asked Mr. Ruiz a question, you had something to say. What that was, the record will reflect. I and many other board members took it, that you were telling me to save my questions for another time. So,
I was just complaining.
if that's not what you said,
That's
I
not
apologize for my
okay,
mistake.
that's
I apologize.
Stop them.
It wasn't.
Let's go.
Mr. President, I have a question or two for Mr. Ruiz. Not about sports, about something else on the building. But I do want to tell Mr. Ruiz, I appreciate all the work you do. And I've been on the board quite a while, you've been here quite a while. And, you know, people ask questions, they think they're questioning you. I ask questions all the time. And it's not because I feel that somebody isn't doing a job. I do not understand. And I made a statement a while back, a few years ago, about how I learned that a third grader will ask you certain questions, and up to a certain grade, they stop. You know why? Because adults don't want to answer the questions. Well, I never stopped asking why, because my parents and my grandparents and everybody I know answered my questions. And they execute and they go on. So I have a couple more questions than Mr. Medina has done. Just general questions. And for you,
Yes.
even though I've asked for a question.
No problem.
Okay.
I just want to say thank you to Dr. Medina, Dr. Medina, thank you so much. And you guys have any other questions? Alice has Mr. Monk, Dr. Doctor. Mr. Monk, here just for some of the other items on the agenda, but Barbara, I'm ready.
I think I'm gonna ask you, when he's done with this, I think that's the some of his agenda.
Yeah, no, you don't have to. If your question comes up, I'll call him.
Okay. He may pop up.
You may pop up, yeah.
Okay. So, I know there's an update on the curriculum for children. Sure. My question was that I see that there's several items, there's 4 items on the agenda for consultants to help, I guess, initiate the curriculum. But my concern, and maybe I'm just far off, is that those 4 consultants, one is in Thurman Marshall for like $7,000. But the middle school has 3 consultants at like, I think it goes up to $14,000. And my concern is that you're spending a lot of money, and I know it's coming from funds, and we have curriculum supervisors, we have you, and I wanted an explanation because of the amount of money for those items.
So I'll start off, go ahead, Ms. Montgomery, I'm gonna have to help answer this. So what we did, we gave to you guys for approval, we we worked with a couple of partners to help us write curriculum. One of the challenges I have with writing curriculum and staff write curriculum is that they don't always understand fully what it entails, and having all the different criteria and Amistad and Holocaust and all those things represented in the curriculum. We work with a partner that has already worked with the state and understands what needs to go in the curriculum. We started that process before the summer, and then through the summer, we started doing the writing. We recruit teams at the building level to work with them so that we can get our curriculum written. And that's what you're seeing before you, is all that work that took place over the summer. And from what we're doing now is trying to unpack that for the staff. Part of the agreement, part of what we're trying to do is have those same partners come in and do that PPE with our staff. At the elementary level, the reason why it's so low is because they don't need as much, so they're just doing, I think, 3 sessions. And I believe Mr. Montgomery has a little more extensive, because his curriculum is a little more extensive, so they have more sessions. But I'll let you explain what that is.
Yes, first of all, good evening, everyone. Thank you for inviting me to Mike. In terms of the curriculum unpacking from the consultants, it was a grade 3 through 8 initiative. So it was 2 schools together that co-sponsored the curriculum writing for vertical articulation. So when you see in the figure was 10,000 for math, and 10,000 for the ELA curriculum, you see joint curriculum sessions where both grades 3 through 8 teachers and staff members will be serviced with unpacking the curriculum first. And that's only, it's a brand new curriculum, and the ELA is a brand new program. So it's not what was in, it wasn't a revision, it was a complete, in the real estate world, a gut. It gutted the original, brought in new components, and wrote it for USAC standard, which is really, really extensive across 4 units. So that, what you see, is curriculum development and unpacking across the school year. It's very good articulation for grade 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So the teachers from Delaware College, that was graduated last year, they will be joining the middle school teachers, both with the math and the ELA unpacking of the curriculum, and when they understand the components of the curriculum and how it relates to the subject matter. The second phase is teaching the teachers best practices and how to prepare for the state testing. So first is like, what do we have? It was so many components, hundreds and hundreds of pages of unpacking and hyperlinks and like Ms. Reed said, LGBT, the Holocaust, in terms of learning that's specific to the demographic of students that we teach. These are all new best practices in the classrooms. They're not new in the sense of brand new, but they're new in terms of what we're doing in Asbury. Making culturally responsive teaching. Everyone in our city and our schools has curriculum, literature, and activities that each and every one of them, and it takes time to unpack. Even something that's like the Holocaust. We explore our in grade 3, 4, 5, 6 in the states. Now it's optional, but when we get to middle school, it's a directive to prepare the middle school to be ready for high school. So these are like things that a lot of teachers, when they're new to the craft, they don't really understand the expectation, the guidelines, the standards, everything. And then we're doing standard-based instruction. So no longer a teacher standing up, looking at a teacher guide, looking at a basic plan and teaching. They're expected to look at the standards, know the activities, if they're not on grade level, and they're in the 8th grade and operating on the 3rd grade level, that teacher now has to, through the help of the consultant, have to drill down that standard so we can differentiate the instruction in small group, teacher-led instruction, cooperative, and it's a big act. I can show you, and this is not interacting on teachers, because they were really honest that most teachers in the district were not don't feel comfortable teaching small group instruction in a class of 24 because they become vulnerable after trying to act with students by working with, say, this group of students at this table, and we have students who walk with them, direct instruction, independent. So it's like a new culture shift. So the first couple of PDs, yes, it's unpacking. This is what we have. And this is a PSAC year. So PSAC is going to come in with the 28, 29 components and check. And we just need to know one that the teachers know that they have it. But now, it's like having a utility belt and not knowing the tools that you have and how to use it. So how do we do it? So what you see with Dr. Schultz is a one-off with her building only, but when you see Ms. Marcus' presentation, it's grades 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 combined. One voice, one message, so they can't take up, and they're coming to me after they leave the elementary, so the teacher, the students, alike, this is good for me to be on the same page. So if you look at the resolutions, it's not unpacking, it's best preparation, best practices, and I think this is a gradual release, the comfortability, and make teachers feel comfortable. And with the lesson plan, because you look at our template, you look at the curriculum is for the ball. You just look at one unit, it will blow you away, and the template, you got to fit all this stuff from here, it's like, how do we do it? Well, who's better to unpack it than the people who wrote it? And that was the reason why I asked the curriculum department and the board, the superintendent, and thank you for letting us write the curriculum. We shared it, Dr. Schultz and myself, and all together, and then from there, I'm just asking you, allow our teachers the opportunity, because if it's not the students, it's not the students in that. The students are wonderful. We're triggered, right? It's not chronic absenteeism. We're driving that down. I feel good that we're going to need to stick this year. And if it's not the students, the teachers are coming to, we didn't even talk about that. Teachers, 98, 99% attendance so far this year. Students, 96, 97. They're coming to school. So if we have all these positive things going, it has to be the curriculum. So look at the curriculum, the sound practices, and ensure that I come up to you and you may enjoy them. I can say, look at the need, look at the trend. Our teachers are now comfortable in the classroom teaching them learning. So the price tag, it's reasonable, and even doing a few opportunities to come in and do some stuff with our district for free. You know, it's like no cost in the district. You know, so when we get you in, so everything is good. We got some freebies within there, but they're going to come and do some things in the name of our teachers and our students, just to make sure we get the bang for our buck. I know it's a little long-winded, I'm sorry, but you don't give them that piece of microphone. Sorry.
Thank you, I appreciate it, and just so everybody knows too, these are questions that the public are asking, so, you know, I'm trying to help spread information. Thank you.
And I too, I would say I enjoy the questions, because it's like you're trying to understand the why. And, you know, my job as a principal and as a teacher, I want to just show you the importance. It is all for the growth of work and then achievement. Because again, she keeps saying we're growing, we have to achieve. So that's the expectation that we have in middle school, that we will achieve and meet the expectations.
Thank you, Board. Thank you guys for listening. I'm sorry that I felt it important to do that because I had to do some soul searching. I'll just be honest. And so for me, it was like, okay, I'm working differently these last years, but I didn't change how I did this. So now I'm looking at it like, oh, you know what? Everything has to change. So we're going to be a little bit more, we're always transparent, but we're going to be more informative to you guys. So thank you for listening. Please send questions anytime. I have a great team of people that answer them. I don't know all the answers, but I think we're everything. And that's what we're here. Thank you again. But thank you.
Before we go,
I would let my administrators go and possibly questions.
Yeah, one question. Barbara, you sent that email on the ERI that you want, I think, is detailed.
Oh, I did forward it, I forwarded it to the entire board on statistics on the ERI. I will mention it because it is on the agenda, that so far the ERI is, I won't say saving money, because saving money would mean our operating costs are going down. What I'm saying is it allows the district to redistribute the funds in another way. Can it save money in the future? Anything that redistributes funds can save money if we choose to make those moves and make those important decisions in the months to come. But yes, it is moving in a positive direction, and if it does grow, it will continue to make a substantial impact. So I'm very happy about that, and thank you for funding, because that's positive news that I'd like to see. When you see statistics and share them, then your dysfunctional board disappears. And I hope everybody realizes that now, because the ER numbers are very, very impressive. Thank you very much for that.
I only share with you, I think it was great, but I think if we look at it, if we actually bring 4 more students in, and I don't want to, just take it off of money, we will be, from the cost that was in there, over $1 million. If we bring 4 additional students in, we can almost reduce it to almost having no functioning cost for our district, and as I don't want to say break in money, but actually reduce it where we will see our kids benefiting, and we will see other kids who will benefit from a great program we have. So I think these are things that I'm never just interested in anyone asking these questions. Please feel free. I know the administration is here, and that's why I said, I don't want to go into the whole report. I hope Mr. pretty nice. Yeah.
Thank you guys so much.
Okay, we'll go on to the next one. Athletics. Fall sports. Fall sports teams, football started this season. Football team started off with a 2-0 record. Boys soccer off to a 3-1 start. The girls soccer has more goals this year than all of last year, which is amazing because we didn't start. We don't think HSC and middle school sports start this week. We had an issue with busing. I don't know if people got on the internet where we actually lost busing with a couple of districts because they had an insurance issue, and we had to basically make some waves to make sure our kids got their game. And we had to cancel for lack of busing for that didn't have insurance. Mr. Artizone indicated we should look to see alternatives. And one of the things I suggested, and I'm going to ask our business administrator to get us the board, talk to Ms. Ackerman on what we were expending in cost. And there was a grant last year that came out where we would have been able to get free vehicles, and also if we train some of our staff to drive them, we will be saving money. So I would like to find out what our total cost on sports is, broken down, and what our total cost on transportation. We get that to us, we can look at finding alternatives, and maybe if that grant comes about, we're looking for more grants so we can actually build it. And then we can have these buses, if we own them, to actually subsidize more transportation for our kids if we own them. And we deal with getting more opportunities for our kids to do other sports.
What transportation, you said sports and?
Sports, and just our normal transportation costs to the board, and also our transportation costs. It is astronomical, but I want to see what it would be to look at purchasing some vehicles. They have a media day, Oscar Day, on September 26th. All high school fall sports teams will have their team pictures taken by life as well as individual action shot. Staff has donated the food and other items, and the staff is actually putting their process themselves for the students. So I want to commend them for doing that and coming out and supporting them. And if anyone, please give a mark Artizone for other things that we need to do to contribute to these kids in school. October 11th and 18th, the girls and boys youth soccer. Through Captain Petway at the POW, they're looking to get the soccer started in the city. The free training will be held at high school from 2 to 3:30. K-5 for girls and boys. Thank you to the residents, Heather Strickland, for coming in. This is a tremendous opportunity. The youth soccer kickoff is October 18th. Final training will be held in conjunction with Mrs. Crawford's World Food Festival at the high school, as well as the boys soccer team plays at 5 that day. We'll be honoring our senior student athletes. The middle school soccer goals, we'll be getting pricing for a couple of different vendors and goals for the middle school, and the football game spectators. No students are allowed in the facility without a parent. This is a new safety measure that they're talking about, is that making sure that we just don't have kids coming around and not being controlled on a lot of our sports activities. So, community time students drop off and let free to run around and cause chaos once we leave the game. So thank you.
Just one more thing, Saturday is the Asbury Park football game at 10 a.m. They're our big rivals, so whoever it is, make it out there.
I have one question on the athletic agenda, and I heard about this a little bit off and on, because they were going to meet periodically. This World's Food Festival, I know they've been planning it for several months. I don't have the details on it, but does anybody know what that's about and what that entails? Because at one point I heard something about food trucks, so I had some concerns about some of the details with that.
Yeah, it's going to be a community event through my early childhood. We're trying to put together, we're getting donations of food. So no one will be paying for food when they're there if we pull this off. But it's a community event, getting the community out, getting the parents out there, and opening up the schools so they can see what's going on here. And all the food would be donated. So it's not a food truck where you walk up and spend $15 on a hamburger. It's a food truck where you go up there and somebody can give it. Like that. But it's still in the process.
Okay, I was just asking because food trucks and things like that, go on the property, they have to have health inspections, there's fire marshals involved, and things like that, so I was just asking.
I think we did we do personnel?
Good evening. The Personnel Department met on September 18th to discuss the agenda items tonight, and we just want to make note that we still are in need of one more committee meeting. It's just myself, Ms. Stephanie, and Ms. Wendy, so we still need one more person for our committee.
Okay, that's a real important.
One thing I would like to see we have more advised, co-curricular advisor positions, and we're still not having negotiations. Can we please do something with trying to resolve extras of co-curricular advisor positions, because we have stipends or even a cost that's associated with each of those, but we haven't had an opportunity to go over anything new or an agreement about how much each position is paid in a collective bargaining agreement. I know we're out of the agreement, but I'd like to bring that up so that we can get that taken care of.
Okay. The next step is participation.
Is there a personnel committee? I mean, a policy?
We have several policies. Is there a reason for them? We just have a policy update.
These are the ones that are mandated by Star Assessment, so they're on there.
Thank you very much.
I did want to mention the one policy that's new, that the law came into play July 1st. And I asked before whether we complied with the law for July 1st with posting positions, because you're supposed to actually list, I believe, the cost from here to here, what the position is going to cost in salary. And I was wondering whether, I'm sure that's something you would be interested in. When you post jobs, there's a new law where when a job's posted, it's more or less everybody knows what the salary range is going to be. You know what the job's about. There's no hidden cost. Like, you can't apply for the job and the second person or third person to apply for it gets a better salary that was never divulged in the range, salary range and things like that. So it's just making a comment that check that we actually comply with the law with all that. That's all, because we didn't have the policy in place.
You're correct on that one. Correct. So,
Okay. Public participation. In accordance with the board policy 0167, Asbury Park Board of Education recognizes the value of public comment on educational issues and other matters of importance, and provides members of the public opportunity to express themselves through matters of community interest. The big comment portion of the meeting is not a question and answer session. All public comments should be directed to the board president and the deciding officer of the meeting. Members of the public who wish to make public comments must be recognized by the deciding officer, provide his or her name, municipality, residence, group affiliation, if applicable. All public comments shall be directed to the presiding officer and are limited to 3 minutes in duration. Members of the public who do not follow the 4-bar rules or interfere with the order of operation of the board meeting may be removed from the meeting.
Public portion is open.
My name is Farrell Kendall. I'm a resident of Asbury Park. I'm a former teacher of this district, and I've got to say that you people are the most dysfunctional group this side of West Hell. I'm so sorry. I'm not confused. The attorney, I always come up here and I always get it wrong. Sometimes I have a question and I want an answer. But when we come here, we can't get an answer. And people like me, that'll make me sit here when everybody else is gone so that I can at least ask somebody when I do have a question and I do have comments, where do I go? Because the last time I asked about something, I was told to email the superintendent, and I did. And he emailed me back. That's an email. I live within this 1.5 square mile area, and I got a car. I can come anywhere anybody needs to sit when I have a question. So when I do have a question, and after tonight, I just don't get it. You have 2 people, you're not working. You have an impasse. It's 4 against 4, and that's my problem. Did you hear that lady say, why does it have to be taxpayers upset and children losing? It doesn't have to be like that. She is so right. Because like I said, I'm from Asbury Park. I was here. 2 of my children graduated. This system did work. It is not working now. And just so anybody don't even worry about it, I'll say it once. And since I'm grown, I'll say it anytime anybody needs to know. Right now, this system is functioning like a factory that's turning out cars with square wheels. If the wheels continue to be square, people either don't buy the cars or you shut the factory down. Simple. The children here, for everybody else who knows who's been here the last year, I was so passionate about my granddaughter. because she is a graduate of Asbury Park High School, of one of these programs that was good. But this is why I came up here. I had two questions. The first one was about, why didn't y'all pick one of those people? I mean, is it because they weren't in somebody's pocket or something? Because the older lady, I don't even know her, but she seemed to have some kind of good ideas concerning something. And the other thing that I wanted to do was, Mr. Garabino, maybe I'll need to email you again about a question that I have. But see, what happens with me is, when I email you a question, even if you send me an answer back, these people don't hear it. Anybody sitting there doesn't hear it.
Ma'am, you have direct questions to me, but right now.
I know that, that's what they said. But what I was talking to him about was an email that I sent him.
Yeah, but.
And he sent it back. But okay, then if I have any question, and since nobody can answer it, would I email you?
You can email, you wanted to follow up questions. And
I have a specific question that I want to be asked here.
I know, but your time is up right now. Right now, please email some questions, and I would like to our superintendent. And if you want us to be CC, you can also CC us on any of those things. And we'll try to get you any information as possible.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I heard pardon, full disclosure, I'm a spouse of Stephanie Ackerman. I heard your proposal on buying buses and what you asked the administration to look into. I would add respectfully, not to tell you how to do your analysis, but you're forgetting about the additional workers' comp for those workers. You're forgetting about a CPA, the union, and you're changing that job description. You're also forgetting about the maintenance of those buses, fuel for those buses, and if I've heard this correctly tonight, there's an issue with the maintenance building, and there's no parking, and you're going to build a pole barn. I think you're failing to understand where you're going to park these buses. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Closed public session. Right now, we can go into reviewing or we can actually go into executive. So let's go through the agenda.
I'll make a motion to go into executive session.
Second.
Well, there's an item
There's a
number
motion and a
5.
second on the floor. Roll call. Any questions?
The motion is going to accept, right? Yes. Yes.